The bell above my bookstore's door chimes as my brother Toby strides in, wearing that familiar expression that always means trouble. I'm shelving new arrivals, and my stomach instantly knots. I know that look too well. My name is Natasha, and I've spent the last 5 years building this store from nothing into something beautiful. Books and Brew isn't just a bookstore. It's my dream manifested in hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling shelves, and the constant aroma of fresh coffee from our little cafe corner. Nat, we need to talk, Toby says, running his hand through his disheveled hair. It's important. Let me guess. You need money again. I try to keep the edge out of my voice, but it's hard. I've lost count of how many times I've bailed him out. It's different this time. He follows me as I continue shelving. I'm in real trouble, sis, like serious trouble. I pause, a copy of The Great Gatsby, hovering between shelf and air. How much? 200,000. The book slips from my fingers, hitting the floor with a thud that echoes through the quiet store. What? How is that even possible? Look, I had this investment opportunity. Another get-rich-quick scheme. I bend to retrieve the book, my hands shaking. Toby, I don't have that kind of money. He shifts uncomfortably. Actually, you do. The store. If you sold it. Stop right there. My voice comes out sharper than I intended. This store isn't for sale, ever. Mom and Dad agree with me, he says quickly. They think it's the best solution. We're having dinner tonight to discuss it. I stare at him, speechless. My parents know how much this store means to me. They were here on opening day, helping me arrange books and hang the sign. Dad even built some of the shelves himself. I'm not coming to dinner, I say firmly. You have to. Everyone's expecting you. He grabs my arm. Please, Nat. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. 3 hours later, I'm sitting at my parents' dining table, pushing food around my plate, while Mom serves her signature lasagna. April, my best friend, had warned me not to come. It's an ambush, she'd texted. She was right. Honey, Mom says, placing her fork down carefully. We've been thinking about what Toby said, and it makes sense. The store is just a business, but family is forever. Just a business? I echo, my voice barely a whisper. Dad clears his throat. Princess, sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. Your brother is in real trouble here. And I'm not. I look around the table, meeting their eyes one by one. That store is everything I have, everything I've worked for. Don't be selfish, Natasha, Mom snaps. Your brother could go to jail. Selfish? The word hits me like a slap. I've given him money countless times. I've co-signed loans. I've put my own credit on the line. When does it end? Toby leans forward, his eyes pleading. Nat, please. I promise I'll make it up to you. I'll help you start another business. With what money? I stand up suddenly, my chair scraping against the floor. The money you don't have. The money you keep borrowing and losing. Natasha Murray, sit down. Mom's voice rises. We are trying to have a civilized discussion about this. There's nothing to discuss. I grab my purse. The store isn't for sale. Not now. Not ever. Then you're choosing a bunch of books over your own brother, Mom says, her voice cold. I never thought you'd be so heartless. I pause at the doorway, turning back to look at them. My mother's disapproving frown, my father's averted eyes, Toby's desperate face. For the first time, I see them clearly, the people who should love me most in the world, trying to take away everything I've built. You know what's heartless? My voice is steady, despite the trembling in my hands. Asking me to sacrifice my dreams because Toby can't get his life together. That's heartless. As I drive home, tears blur my vision, but beneath the hurt, something else is stirring, a feeling I haven't experienced in years. It reminds me of late nights in high school, bent over my sketchbook, creating worlds with nothing but pencil and paper. Before I put art aside to be the responsible one. Before I became everyone's safety net. My phone buzzes with messages from my family, but I ignore them. Instead, I pull into my parking spot behind the bookstore and sit there, watching the moonlight play on the gold lettering of my window sign. They want to take this from me, But they've forgotten something important. I'm not the same person who always said yes to keep the peace. Not anymore. I'm in my apartment above the bookstore, digging through my closet at 2 a.m. when I find them, my old sketchbooks, buried under years of forgotten things. My hands shake as I pull them out, dust coating my fingers. "What are you doing?" April's voice comes through my phone speaker, groggy with sleep. "I can hear you moving furniture through the wall." "I found my art supplies," I say, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "Remember when I used to draw all the time? Remember, you were amazing. I still have that portrait you did of me in college." I flip through the pages, memories flooding back, landscapes, portraits, abstract pieces that captured emotions I couldn't express in words. The last drawing is dated 5 years ago, right before I open the store. "I need you to come over," I say suddenly. "I know it's late, but give me 5 minutes." True to her word, April appears in her pajamas, carrying 2 cups of coffee from her apartment next door. She sits beside me on the floor, picking up one of the sketchbooks. "God, Nat, these are incredible." She pauses at a particular piece, a dark, swirling composition I'd created after my first major fight with Toby. "You should display these in the store." I shake my head. "They're not good enough." "Bullshit." April sets down her coffee. "Get dressed, we're going to the art supply store." It's the middle of the night. "It's called the internet, honey. We're ordering supplies now, and tomorrow we're clearing that empty wall by the cafe for an exhibition." My phone buzzes. Another message from Mum. I silence it without looking. "April, I can't just..." "Can't what? Express yourself? Fight back?" She grabs my laptop. "Your family wants to take your store. Show them exactly who they're trying to destroy. 3 hours and several $100s later, we've ordered canvases, paints, and everything I need to start creating again." April's sprawled on my couch, scrolling through local art shows on her phone. "There's a community art gathering next month," she says. "Perfect timing for your debut." "I haven't painted in years. I'll be terrible." "Then be terrible. Be angry. Be whatever you need to be." She sits up, suddenly serious. "But don't let them win by staying silent." The next morning, I'm opening the store when I notice something in my old portfolio. A painting I'd forgotten about. It's different from the others, more raw. I'd created it the night before I signed the lease on the bookstore, when everyone told me I was making a mistake. "That's powerful stuff," says a voice behind me. I turn to find Denise, one of my regular customers, studying the painting. She's an artist herself, with a studio downtown. "I used to paint," I explain, suddenly self-conscious. "Used to?" She raises an eyebrow. "Honey, with talent like this, there's no past tense." I tell her about the art supplies arriving tomorrow, about April's exhibition idea. Her eyes light up. "You need a mentor," she declares. "Someone to help you shake off the rust. I volunteer." I couldn't ask. "You're not asking, I'm offering." She pulls out her business card. "My studio, tomorrow morning at 7. Bring coffee and that fire I see in your eyes." That afternoon, April helps me clear the wall space. We're hanging track lighting when my father walks in. "Princess," he starts, but I cut him off. "If you're here about the store, the answer's still no." He sighs, looking around at our work. "What's all this?" "Art exhibition," April answers before I can. "Your daughter's an artist, in case you forgot." "Natasha," he says softly, "your mother's very upset. Maybe if you just talk to her, like she talked to me." I climb down from the ladder. "By calling me selfish and heartless." "She didn't mean..." "Yes, she did." I pick up my old painting, showing it to him. "Remember when I wanted to go to art school? You and Mom said it wasn't practical, that I needed a real career. So I compromised. I built this store. And now you want me to give it up because Toby screwed up again?" Dad stares at the painting, recognition flickering in his eyes. "You were always so talented." "I still am." I turn away, picking up another paint roller. "Tell Mom I'm done compromising." After he leaves, April squeezes my shoulder. "You okay?" I look at the empty wall, already imagining it filled with new works, pieces that will tell my story, my truth. I will be. That night, I pull out a fresh sketchbook. My first stroke is hesitant, but the second is stronger. By the third, my hand remembers its old confidence. The image forming on the page is dark but beautiful. A bookstore, with wings rising from shadows. It's time to show my family exactly what they're up against. The morning light streams through Denise's studio windows as I stand before my easel, brush hovering over canvas. 2 weeks of daily sessions have awakened something in me that I thought was long dead. Stop thinking, Denise calls from across the room. Feel it. My phone buzzes again, the 20th call from Mum this week. I silence it and dip my brush in dark blue paint. They're escalating, I tell Denise, letting the colour flow across the canvas. Mum showed up at the store yesterday with a real estate agent. And I lock the door and put up the closed sign. The brush moves faster now, anger fueling each stroke. They stood there for 20 minutes, watching me through the window while I shelved books. Denise walks over, studying my work. The painting shows a woman trapped in a glass box, hands pressed against the walls, while shadowy figures watch from outside. This is good, really good. The emotion is raw. Toby's girlfriend came by too, I say, adding deeper shadows. Apparently, he's drinking again. Not your problem anymore. That's what April said. I step back, examining the piece. I used to clean up his messes, since we were kids. He'd break something, I'd take the blame. He'd forget his homework, I'd help him fake it. Now I'm just done. The studio door opens, and April bursts in, waving her phone. You need to see this. She shows me a social media post from my mother. Heartbroken that my daughter would choose material possessions over family. Please pray for her to find compassion in her heart. She's playing the victim card, April says, disgusted. The comments are full of people offering sympathy. I grab a red paint tube, squeezing it perhaps harder than necessary. Let them talk. Actually, Denise interjects, let them see. She gestures to my growing collection of works. Your community art gathering is this weekend. These pieces tell the real story. That evening, as I'm closing the store, a familiar car pulls up. Dad steps out, looking older than I remember. Can we talk? He asks through the door. Against my better judgment, I let him in. He walks around, looking at the new paintings displayed on the wall. Your mother's very hurt, he starts. And I'm not. I point to a painting of a young girl carrying a much larger figure on her back. This was me, Dad, always carrying Toby's burdens. He's your brother. And I'm your daughter. My voice echoes through the empty store. But that never seemed to matter as much, did it? Dad stops at a particularly dark piece, a family dinner scene where all the figures except one are wearing masks. Is this how you see us? It's how you are. I cross my arms. Why are you really here? He pulls out some papers from his jacket. Your mother. She's found a legal precedent, since we helped with the down payment on the store. Get out. My voice is ice cold. Princess, please. I said get out. I snatch the papers from his hand, ripping them in half. And tell Mom if she wants a legal battle, she'd better be ready for everyone to know exactly what kind of family we are. After he leaves, I call April. They're trying to take legal action. I know a good lawyer, she responds immediately. My cousin Sarah specializes in family business disputes. The next morning, I'm hanging the final pieces for the community gathering when Denise arrives early. Someone's here to see your work, she says, grinning. A publisher friend of mine. He's interested in art books. A tall man in a casual suit follows her in. I'm Sergio, he says, extending his hand. Denise showed me photos of your recent work. The narrative is compelling. It's just personal therapy, I say, but he's already moving from piece to piece, taking photos with his phone. This is more than therapy, he says, stopping at the family dinner painting. This is a story that needs to be told. Have you considered publishing these as a collection? Before I can answer, the door chimes again. Mom walks in, stops dead when she sees the artwork. "What is this?" she demands, face paling as she takes in the images. "Are you trying to humiliate us?" "No, Mom, I'm trying to tell the truth." I turn to Sergio. "And yes, I'd love to discuss publishing these." Mom's face hardens. "If you do this, if you expose our family this way, there's no coming back." I look at my paintings, each one a piece of truth I've hidden for years. Then I look at my mother, really look at her, and feel nothing but pity. "You're right," I say quietly. "There's no coming back. But maybe that's exactly what I need." She leaves without another word, the door closing behind her with a final sounding click. Sergio turns to me, his expression serious. "Now that," he says, "is exactly the kind of story I want to help you tell." "We're thinking a coffee table book," Sergio says, spreading mock-ups across my store's reading table. "Your paintings tell a story of family dysfunction that will resonate with thousands." I touch one of the proposed layouts, my glass box painting spanning 2 full pages. It feels so public. "That's the point," April chimes in from behind the coffee counter. "Let everyone see what they're really like." The bell chimes and Sarah, April's lawyer cousin, walks in carrying a thick folder. Her expression is grim. "We need to talk," she says, setting down her briefcase. "Your parents filed a petition claiming partial ownership of the store based on their initial investment." My hands shake as I pick up the documents. They really did it. "There's more," Sarah continues. "They're claiming you're emotionally unstable, using these new paintings as evidence. They want a psychological evaluation." April drops a mug, coffee splattering across the floor. "They what?" "It's a common tactic," Sarah explains. "They're trying to paint you as mentally unfit to run the business." Sergio studies the legal papers with interest. "This actually works in our favor for the book. It adds another layer to the story." "My life isn't just a story," I snap, then immediately regret my tone. "I'm sorry, No, I'm sorry," Sergio says softly. "You're right, but consider this. While they're trying to silence you, we can give you a platform, a loud one." The bell chimes again. This time it's Toby, looking worse than I've ever seen him. His eyes are bloodshot, his clothes rumpled. "Nat, please," he starts, stumbling slightly. "Are you drunk?" I step back as he approaches. It's 10 in the morning. "The guys I owe money to, they're not patient people." He grabs my arm. "They're threatening to—" "Let go of her," April warns, coming around the counter. "You don't understand," Toby shouts, his grip tightening. "They're going to kill me." Sarah pulls out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "No!" Toby releases me, backing away. "Mom and Dad were right. You don't care about anyone but yourself." He storms out, knocking over a display of books. Through the window, I watch him climb into a car where our mother is waiting. "They planned this," April realizes. "They wanted to provoke you." Sarah nods. "And if you had reacted violently, they'd have used it against you in court." I walk to my newest painting, still wet on the easel by the window. It shows a puppet master controlling family members with dark strings. Without thinking, I grab my brush and add Toby's face to one of the puppets. "I want to do the book," I tell Sergio, "but I want to add new pieces. Show this whole legal battle too." He grins. "Even better. We'll document it as it happens." Later that afternoon, Denise arrives with news. The community art gathering is getting attention. Local press will be there. "My parents will try to stop it," I say, touching up the puppet master's face to look more like my mother. "Let them try." Denise surveys the store. "This space is legally rented for the event. They can't prevent it." My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. "Your mother is crying herself to sleep every night. Is this what you wanted?" April reads it over my shoulder and snorts. "Is this what they wanted? They started this." I show Sarah more texts from my parents. Threats, guilt trips, manipulations. She documents everything, building our case. "They're getting desperate," she observes, "which means they're more likely to make mistakes." That evening, after everyone leaves, I stay late painting. The store feels different now, less like a sanctuary and more like a battlefield. But as I work on a new piece, something shifts inside me. The painting takes shape, a woman standing in a storm, but instead of being battered by it, she's conducting it like a symphony. The clouds swirl with faces. My parents, Toby, the lawyers, all caught in a tempest of their own making. My phone rings. It's an unknown number. "Is this Natasha?" a gruff voice asks. "I'm one of the guys your brother owes money to. Since he can't pay—" "Don't threaten me," I cut him off. "Whatever Toby's done, it's his problem." "You sure about that? Nice store you got. Be a shame if—" I hang up and immediately call Sarah, who answers despite the late hour. "Record any future calls," she instructs. "This is witness intimidation. We can use this." After we hang up, I stare at my painting. The woman in the storm now looks less like a conductor and more like a warrior. I add final touches. A sword of light in her hand, her face set in determined lines. They want a war. Fine. But they've forgotten something important. They taught me everything I know about fighting dirty. I pick up my brush again, ready to turn their weapons into my armor. The courthouse feels colder than it should for a summer morning. I sit straight-backed in the hard wooden chair, my newest sketchbook open on my lap, while Sarah arranges documents on the table before us. "Remember," she whispers, "let them talk first. They'll reveal their hand." Across the aisle, Mum and Dad sit with their lawyer, a sleek woman in an expensive suit. Toby's conspicuously absent. "All rise," the bailiff announces as Judge Martinez enters. The preliminary hearing begins with their lawyer painting a picture of a troubled daughter spiraling out of control, using her art to publicly shame her loving family. "Your Honor," she says, displaying printouts of my paintings. "These disturbing images clearly show Ms. Murray's deteriorating mental state." I keep sketching, my pencil capturing the scene unfolding before me. The judge's attentive pose, my mother's practiced concerned expression, my father's averted eyes. "Furthermore," their lawyer continues, "this business was established with significant financial support from her parents, who now fear for their investment given their daughter's increasingly erratic behavior." Sarah stands. "Your Honor, if creating art is evidence of mental instability, we should probably clear out half the museums in the city." A few chuckles from the gallery. "What we have here is a clear case of attempted financial coercion and familial manipulation." She presents the threatening phone calls, the text messages, the social media campaign my mother launched. The defendant's art isn't a sign of instability, it's documentation of systematic emotional abuse. The judge studies my parents. "Is it true you brought a real estate agent to the business without your daughter's consent?" Mum stands up, tears ready. "We're just trying to help our son. By destroying your daughter?" The words escape me before I can stop them. Sarah touches my arm in warning, but I'm done being silent. "Permission to address the court?" I ask. The judge nods. I walk to the front, carrying my sketchbook. "These paintings they call disturbing. They tell the truth. This one," I hold up the puppet masterpiece, "shows how my mother manipulates everyone. This one, the family dinner scene, shows how they wear masks of caring while plotting to take everything I've built." "Your Honor," their lawyer interrupts, "this emotional display proves our point." "No," I cut in, my voice stronger than I feel. "What proves your point is that you're more concerned about these paintings becoming public than about why I needed to paint them in the first place." I turn to my parents. "You want to talk about investments? I invested my entire life in this family. Every time Toby messed up, I fixed it. Every time he needed money, I provided it. The store was the one thing I did for myself, and you can't stand that." The judge leans forward. "Mrs. Murray, Mr. Murray, do you dispute these allegations?" Dad finally meets my eyes. For a moment, I see something like recognition there, maybe even regret. But then Mom squeezes his hand and he looks away. "We just want what's best for our children," Mom says softly. "Your Honor," Sarah interjects, We have evidence that the defendants are working with Mr. Murray's creditors to intimidate my client. The threatening phone calls. That's a lie. Mom stands up, her practiced composure cracking. We would never. Then explain this. Sarah plays a recording. Toby's voice fills the courtroom. Mom, the guys say if we can't get the store, they'll take it another way. Tell Nat she's not leaving us any choice. The silence that follows is deafening. Judge Martinez removes her glasses. I've heard enough. The petition for emergency business control is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order, preventing the plaintiffs from entering the defendant's place of business. But, Mom starts, Mrs. Murray, consider yourself lucky I'm not referring this for criminal investigation. Attempted coercion through threats is a serious matter. Outside the courthouse, April hugs me tight while Denise and Sergio wait nearby. It's not over, Sarah warns. They'll probably appeal. Let them. I open my sketchbook to the courthouse scene I drew. My mother's mask finally slipping, my father's weakness exposed. Every move they make just gives me more material. Speaking of material, Sergio steps forward. The art gathering is tomorrow. After this, press interest has doubled. Mum's voice carries across the courthouse steps. Natasha, don't do this to us. I turn to see her hurrying down the steps, Dad trailing behind. You've already done it to yourselves, I say quietly, then turn to Sergio. Let's make sure everyone sees exactly what family loyalty looks like in the Murray household. As we walk away, I hear Mom calling after me, but her voice seems distant now, like a storm I've finally learned to weather. Tomorrow, my art will speak louder than her cries ever could. And this time, I won't be the only one listening. They're lining up around the block, April says, peeking through the bookstore's blinds. I count at least 50 people, and the art gathering doesn't start for another hour. I'm hanging the final piece, the courthouse scene, completed at 3 a.m. this morning. Denise adjusts the lighting, making the colors pop against the wall. Local news is here too, Sergio announces, checking his phone. And that arts blogger I contacted, she's bringing a photographer from the City magazine. My hands tremble slightly as I step back from the wall. The store has transformed into a proper gallery space, with track lighting highlighting 20 pieces that tell my story from beginning to end. You need to change, Denise declares, grabbing my arm. No more hiding in paint-splattered jeans. I brought options. Upstairs in my apartment, she helps me into a black dress that makes me look more like an artist than a bookstore owner. As she fixes my hair, a text from Toby appears. Mum's in the hospital. Anxiety attack. I hope you're happy. Don't respond, April warns, reading over my shoulder. It's another manipulation tactic. I know. I delete the message. Let's do this. The gathering opens at 7. People flood in, moving from piece to piece, their murmurs filling the space. I hear snippets of conversations. The emotion in these strokes. Look at the symbolism in the family dinner. Is that really how they treated her? A reporter from the local news station corners me by the Puppet Master painting. Your work seems to focus on family trauma. Was this series inspired by your recent legal battle? Before I can answer, I spot my father standing in the doorway. He's alone, looking lost among the crowd. Excuse me, I tell the reporter, making my way over. You can't be here. There's a restraining order. I'm staying on the sidewalk, he says quickly. These paintings, is this really how you see us? No, Dad, this is how you are. I gesture to the courthouse piece. Look at yourself in this one. Really look. You couldn't even meet my eyes while they tried to take everything from me. His gaze lingers on the painting. Your mother, she means well. Stop making excuses for her. For once in your life, just stop. A photographer starts snapping pictures of our conversation. Dad retreats, disappearing into the night. Natasha. A woman approaches, introducing herself as the arts blogger. These pieces are extraordinary. Would you be interested in an interview for the City magazine? The next hour becomes a blur of interviews, photographs, and conversations. Art collectors ask about purchasing pieces. Sergio Field's inquiries about the upcoming book. People share their own stories of family betrayal, their eyes wet as they thank me for giving voice to their experiences. Sold out, April announces, holding up a stack of pre-order forms for the book. We have a waiting list. Denise pulls me aside during a quiet moment. You've done something remarkable here. You've turned pain into power. Speaking of power, Sarah appears, tablet in hand. Your parents' lawyer just filed an appeal, but look at these comments on the court's public record. The screen shows dozens of responses from people who've seen my art, sharing similar stories of family manipulation and financial abuse. The court of public opinion has made its judgment. Later, as the crowd thins, a young woman approaches me, crying. My brother's just like yours, she says. I've been afraid to stand up to him, but your art, it gave me courage. After she leaves, Sergio hands me a glass of champagne. The City magazine wants to do a full spread. Your story's going viral. It's not just my story anymore, I realize, watching people study the paintings. It belongs to everyone who's ever been called selfish for having boundaries. My phone buzzes, a news alert. Someone's shared a video of my father standing outside the gallery, watching through the window. The comments are brutal. Coward father watches daughter's success from sidewalk after trying to destroy her business. This is what toxic family loyalty looks like. Art speaks truth to power. April squeezes my hand. You okay? I look around my store, at the paintings that tell my truth, at the people moved by that truth, at the empty sidewalk where my father stood. I'm better than okay. I'm free. As the last visitors leave, Denise and Sergio discuss plans for a larger exhibition downtown. The City magazine photographer wants one final shot of me with my work. I pose beside the newest piece, the one I finished this morning. It shows a woman emerging from a chrysalis made of broken family photographs, her wings made of book pages and paint strokes. Perfect, the photographer says. You look exactly like her. I smile because she's right. I've become the woman in my paintings, stronger than their guilt, bigger than their manipulation, free of their strings. And this is just the beginning. Your brother's been arrested, April announces, bursting into my studio at Denise's art space. It's all over the local news. I set down my brush, the canvas before me half finished. A new piece for the downtown exhibition next week. What happened? Those guys he owed money to? Turns out they're connected to a loan shark ring. Police caught Toby trying to rob a convenience store to pay them back. My phone starts ringing immediately. Mom's number. I decline the call. She'll try to blame you for this somehow, April warns. Let her try. I gesture to the painting I'm working on. A man drowning in a sea of his own bad decisions while others try to save him. I'm done being his lifeguard. The studio door opens again. Sergio rushes in, waving his tablet. The City magazine article just dropped. It's trending everywhere. I scan the headline. Art of Betrayal: How One Woman Turned Family Manipulation into Creative Gold. The article includes photos of my work, quotes from the art gathering, and even the video of my father watching from outside. But what catches my eye is the comments section, flooded with similar stories. Your exhibition opening tonight is sold out, Sergio continues. 3 times over. We had to hire security. Security? I look up from the tablet. Your mother's been calling the gallery, making threats about protests. He shrugs. Empty threats, probably, but better safe than sorry. That evening, the downtown gallery gleams with spotlights. My paintings, now including several new pieces, fill the space. The crowd is bigger than I ever imagined, including art critics, collectors, and local celebrities. There's a reporter from the New York Times here, Denise whispers, adjusting my designer blazer. Another transformation from bookstore owner to acclaimed artist. I'm giving an interview when I see them, Mum and Dad, trying to push past security at the entrance. Dad looks defeated, but Mum's face is contorted with rage. That's our daughter in there, she shouts. We have a right. No, you don't, I say, walking over. The reporter follows, recording everything. You have a restraining order. Your brother is in jail, Mom hisses, while you're here playing artist. Playing? I gesture to the packed gallery. Does this look like playing to you? This is who I am, who I've always been, before you and Dad forced me to be Toby's keeper instead. You did. Every time you called me selfish for having boundaries. Every time you made me responsible for his choices. I point to a new painting. Toby as a drowning man, pulling others down with him. This is your legacy, Mom. This is what your perfect family looks like to the world now. Dad steps forward. Princess, please. Security, I call out. Please escort them out. As they're led away, Mom turns back. I'm your mother. You can't do this to me. You did this to yourself, I reply, loud enough for everyone to hear. I just painted it. The incident makes the evening news. Videos of my mother's meltdown go viral, alongside images of my art. The irony isn't lost on anyone, her behavior proving exactly what my paintings portray. Later, Sergio finds me in a quiet corner. The book's pre-orders just hit 6 figures. Publishers are fighting over the rights. And the paintings, I ask, sold. All of them, for more than asking price. He grins. You're not just an artist anymore, Natasha. You're a voice for everyone who's ever been gaslit by family. April brings me a glass of champagne. Toby's girlfriend called. He's facing serious charges. Your mom wants you to help with bail money. I almost laugh. Of course she does. The police want to talk to you too, she adds. About the loan sharks. Apparently, Toby implicated them in some bigger crimes. I look around the gallery, at my pain turned into beauty, my silence turned into strength. Every painting tells a story of survival, not just mine anymore. A young collector approaches, pointing to the drowning man painting. This one speaks to me. My sister's like your brother, always dragging everyone down with her. What did you do about it? I ask. She straightens her shoulders. I got out, just like you. The evening winds down, but the energy remains electric. Critics are calling my work a raw exploration of family dynamics and a powerful statement on emotional manipulation. As I prepare to leave, Denise hands me a small package. Inside is a framed photo of me standing amid my paintings, looking strong and unafraid. This is who you really are, she says. Not their puppet, not their savior, just you telling your truth. I hang the photo in my studio, right where I can see it while I paint. Let them rage against my boundaries. Let them cry about consequences. I've finally learned the most important lesson. Some families aren't worth drowning for. The morning sun streams through the bookstore windows as I add the final touches to my newest installation, a series of interconnected paintings that transform the space into an immersive art experience. Books and art finally coexisting exactly as I'd imagined. The reporter's here, April calls from the cafe corner, where she's arranging pastries for the morning rush. I straighten up as a woman enters, notebook in hand. Ms. Reynolds from the Post? She nods, looking around. This is different from your gallery shows, more intimate. This is where it started, I explain, leading her through the installation. My family tried to take this place from me, but instead it evolved into something bigger. The bell chimes. A teenage girl walks in with her mother, clutching my book to her chest. They freeze when they recognize me. Go ahead, her mother encourages. Tell her what you wrote in your essay. The girl steps forward. I wrote about your art for my college application, about how you showed me it's okay to say no to toxic family. I got accepted to art school. Before I can respond, Sarah bursts in, waving documents. Toby took a plea deal. He's testifying against the loan sharks. Let me guess, Mum wants me to write a character reference. Actually, Sarah hands me a letter. Toby wrote this. He specifically said not to send you any messages about it, just to give you the letter if I saw you. I set it on the counter unopened. The reporter watches intently. Aren't you going to read it? Maybe, but not because anyone's pressuring me to. That's the difference now. The door chimes again. Denise enters with Sergio, carrying coffee and bagels. Ready for the big announcement? What announcement? The reporter asks. I gesture to the new installation. Books and Brew is becoming Books, Brew and Brushes. We're adding an art school upstairs, focusing on therapeutic art for survivors of family trauma. The waiting list is already full, Sergio adds. Turns out lots of people need a safe space to tell their stories through art. April brings over coffee for everyone. Tell her about the foundation. The reporter leans forward. Foundation, part of the book proceeds are funding legal aid for people fighting financial abuse from family members, I explain. Sarah's heading it up. And your parents, have they... Still sending flying monkeys to guilt me, April interrupts. Last week it was their pastor. Yesterday, my mother's bridge club friend. I walk to the window, looking at the spot where Dad used to stand watching. They haven't changed, but I have. The teenage girl approaches again, opens the book to a specific painting, the woman conducting the storm. This one helped me tell my dad I don't want to take over his business. I want to make art instead. Are you afraid? I ask. Yes, but your book says that's okay. Being afraid doesn't mean you're wrong. The reporter scribbles furiously. How does it feel, becoming a voice for others? I pick up Toby's letter, feeling its weight. It feels like turning poison into medicine. Finally, I open the letter. His handwriting is shaky. Nat, I'm sorry, not because I got caught, but because I finally understand what I did to you. The other inmates have your book. They keep showing me the paintings, asking if I'm really the brother who tried to steal your store. I tell them yes, because lying about it would make me an even worse person. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know you were right to stand up to all of us. Toby. Well? April asks softly. I fold the letter carefully. He's right. He doesn't deserve forgiveness yet. But at least he's finally telling the truth. The reporter closes her notebook. Any final thoughts for the article? I look around my transformed space, at the art students arriving for morning classes, at April serving coffee to people discussing the paintings, at Sarah reviewing foundation applications, at the teenage girl sketching in a corner. Just this, sometimes the family you need isn't the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the one you build after you break free. The door chimes one more time. A woman enters, trembling slightly. My brother is threatening to sue me for our parents' house. I saw your foundation's website. Sarah immediately moves to help her. I watch them settle into the cafe corner, the woman's story pouring out between sobs. I pick up my brush, turning to a fresh canvas. There's always another story waiting to be told, another voice waiting to be freed. And now I know exactly how to help them find it. Not through drowning with them, but by showing them how to swim.